What's going on? This is Ron K. Armstrong, filmmaker extraordinaire, with another video for you. In this video, we're going to talk about how Black filmmakers need to stop the point and shoot mentality. Before I get into that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. And if this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live and when I upload recorded videos. So here we are again with another broadcast. So I want to talk about this subject matter, which I know is a bit controversial, airing some dirty laundry. But I travel across the country, and I've been to a lot of film festivals, specifically Black film festivals. And I've noticed a common theme, and I've addressed these in previous videos that I've done. Part of the theme is we tend to make a lot of videos or films, that revolve around the gangster thug element or dysfunctional relationships. And we need to really branch outside of that. And this is because we're close to those subject matters, and we have not afforded the opportunity to make a number of films back to back, because it can be a very expensive medium as white filmmakers, because there is an economic gap there. But the digital age has closed that gap, so there's no excuse for us to saturate the market with the continued thug and dysfunctional relationship films. But one of the worst offenses that I've seen in Black films, and this is somewhat related to being an independent filmmaker, because there's reasons why you would approach film from this perspective, but I see a lot of Black films in the film festivals are guilty of this, and this is the point and shoot mentality, which is only using things like close up, medium shot, far shot. That's it. And it doesn't seem like Black filmmakers have evolved to a point to where they understand how to tell their story visually. This is very important. One of my favorite filmmakers is Stanley Kubrick. He did 2001: A Space Odyssey, a sensational film. And Full Metal Jacket. If you look at his resume of films, what you'll notice is that not only is he telling a narrative, but the narrative is being told visually as well. And it's just awesome, the way he approaches it, the way he sets up his shots. It's beautiful. And unfortunately, I am not seeing a concerted effort with Black filmmakers to really think about how they're setting up their shots. It's almost non-existent in a way. And the reason why I say this is a crime that can be attributed in some part to independent filmmakers, because let's say, for example, if you have a limited budget and you've managed to secure a mom and pop coffee shop on the corner, and mom and pop says you can use it for 4 hours in the late evening, and after that they're going to kick you out. Well, you go in there and you should have your shot storyboarded, but you go in there knowing that you only have a limited amount of times. So typically with an independent filmmaker, if they don't have a lot of time to get their shots, they just drop back into the basic stuff. Get your coverage, get your far shots, get your medium shots, get your close-ups, then you're done. Boom, you can get out of there. But when you are afforded a longer length of time, say mom and pop says you have the whole day, then you can do your camera setups creatively and tell the story. But most often, I don't see that as a viable excuse for Black filmmakers, because there are things where you see them shooting in parks, you know what I mean? Public locations, or their apartments, where it's horrendous. It's no idea of how to set up a shot that tells a story visually. I don't know what's going on, because we are right brain thinkers. Right brain is the creative center. So why isn't that happening? And the reason why I'm addressing this, and people can get mad at me if they want, is because it is so widespread of an offense. One of the things when I did my first feature film, Bugged, wasn't the greatest film. I made a lot of mistakes. But one of the things that people who walked out the theater, and it was in the theater we premiered in France, was that they said we loved the camera angles, because that film was about, see if I have the DVD, no, I don't think I have it right here. It was about this young woman named Divine Hill. She was a famous poetess, and she moved into her lovely new house. Come to find out, it's infested with bugs. So she calls the local exterminators to come and eradicate the bugs. But the exterminators, instead of using a regular bug spray, they use a toxic mutagenic chemical, which makes the bugs grow bigger and smarter. So in approaching that film, it's a comedy horror. I not only was I interested in telling the narrative comedically and obeying the genre of horror and how certain tropes work with that, I also said this is a prime opportunity to get a bug's eye view of the world. How are the bugs seeing the exterminators? How do they see the main protagonist, Divine Hill? And what I got was an opportunity for some very incredible shots. Now, of course, not all of the shots were creative and done from the bug's perspective, because there were just certain times when you're on a location, and we shot up in upstate New York at a very big house up there. When you're on location, you may have a great day when you shoot, I don't know, say 10 pages. And then the next day you only shoot 2 pages. Well, now you're behind schedule. So you have to sacrifice. So you do have to fall back into the medium shot, wide shot, close up, and that's it. But there should be a vision, you as a filmmaker going into this, about how the story is going to be told visually with the camera. And you should be working closely with your DP to bring that to life. This is non-existent with Black filmmakers. In addition to just doing thug and dysfunctional relationship films, they just do point and shoot. And there was one filmmaker that I gave credit to. He did a film, very short film, during COVID-19, where he toured Las Vegas. And in so doing, he came up with the most creative shots I've seen in a long time from an independent filmmaker. So I think it goes by the name of Bowfinger. And I'm going to put a link, if I can, to his film in the description box. And all he did was he took these basically action figures, and you could see the setup in terms of scale, the depth of field. It was just wonderful. And interesting, let me just say this. Okay, let me just say this, because I don't want to get myself in trouble hurting anybody's feelings. What Bowfinger did with his film rivaled what Spike Lee did, because Spike Lee made a film about COVID-19 where he toured New York and did some shooting. And what you saw in Spike Lee's film was just a point and shoot. It was medium, close up, far shot, and that was it. Whereas my friend's film gave you a creative perspective on Las Vegas. But enough said about that. I want you to start thinking about that. And this comes from being prepared. Because if you storyboard your film, whether it's a short or feature, then when you get to set, you shouldn't have any problems of being worried about how much time you had. Because when you are prepared, when you have collaborated with your crew, your setups and your breakdowns should be very, very easy. It's when you go in there and you don't have an idea of what you're going to shoot, you haven't storyboarded anything out, the actors haven't rehearsed, that you get yourself into trouble. And the audience appreciates the fact when they see a film with very creative angles, because when those angles are there, it creates greater depth to the story. You understand? So as a filmmaker, you kind of have to have your hand in a bunch of stuff in terms of the music score, in terms of how you want to bring out a great performance in your actors, how the effects team you bring on, the stunt team, what have you. Give this care and consideration, because it's a visual medium. And because it's a visual medium, it's important. So what I want to do right now is I want to show you a film. It's called Children of Paradise. And I believe it's a French film. And what you're going to see in this film is some of the most extraordinary angles ever. And this is an older film, but it's a beautiful film, shot in black and white. So just let's take a quick look at this. This is the trailer for Children of Paradise. grand scale.
C'est tellement simple, l'amour.
Camera movement. Yeah, just positioning.
Je rêvais, j'espérais, j'attendais. C'est peut-être vous que j'attendais. Les rêves, la vie, c'est pareil. Ou alors ça vaut pas la peine de vivre.
Au funambule, c'est dimanche, ça saute, ça remue.
My God, what a wealth of information being conveyed there. Let's just look at this without the sound. And I mean, you can see that the director was setting up every shot with intention. Look at this grand opening shot. Beautiful. And then we have the depth there and how the buildings go down, how the camera's moving. A couple of shots I want to really focus on that are beautiful. And you'll notice the tight shot and how she's moving with the stationary shot. Everything here is highlighting the story, bringing it out, making it look at that camera angle there. Look at that dolly. Now, just focusing on the hand there. Everything with intention. When there's intimacy, the director gets a closer shot. When the director wants to show the grand scale, there's a farther shot with more people. See what else here? There's something particular. Using the lights and the aesthetics of light. Now, I want you to look at this shot, beautiful shot here. He's walking, and then as he walks, we follow him, and it reveals this person there doing the juggling act. Very beautiful, really giving us more information as he moves along. Let me see if I can back that out. I want to go back and see that again. He walks from a corner, and then we get a shot of this guy there. Beautiful. These guys in the foreground. Oh, I mean, I could take hours to just go over every shot and how magnificent. See the curtain pulls. You have the people in the background that's showing the positioning. It's like the curtain is pulled, revealing that love affair that's going on. It's exposing that. That's a metaphor. Tight shot of a crowd celebrating. Now, when I say that Black filmmakers, independent filmmakers, and I'm going to be very clear on that because most Hollywood Black filmmakers are very astute and in tune with the cinematographer, and they know that they want beautiful shots. You know, Spike Lee did a wonderful job in Do the Right Thing. Some of those angles, and a lot of those shots were extraordinary, were awesome. So I want to play something else, and this is by Terry Gilliam, director, filmmaker, and he's going to talk about his feelings of Children of Men. Let's just get an idea in that.
Marcel Carné's Children of Paradise, which I actually prefer to say Les Enfants du Paradis, shows how sophisticated I am, is one of those films, it seemed to me, that we'll never see again, because there was a time when poetry and big budgets seemed to go hand in hand. We don't allow that anymore, because I think the film is a totally poetic statement. Every person speaks beautifully. It's very French and fatalistic in a sense, because life goes on, you know, we live, we love. Ooh. The film, right from the moment of its opening, gets me because it's about theater. And I've always loved theater. And there it is. Boom! Right at the start there, we have a drawn theatrical curtain. And we have a little preface. And then it rises. And it rises to this sound of this drum, bum, 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 announcing something. And we come onto the famous Boulevard du Crime, Crime Street. And it's one of the great shots that I've ever seen in a movie. It's everything I dreamed about movies. It's a world that doesn't exist. This density of people, an extraordinary world, extraordinary buildings, extraordinary events. It's a circus. It's a fair. It's magic. It's all there. And everybody's asking for your attention. What I like about circuses is the sideshow behind a curtain. There was always something there being announced, something promised. And you walk behind the curtain and you see something extraordinary. And the film starts with something extraordinary. A beautiful woman naked in a tub, looking at herself in a mirror, and people walking around. This is Garance, Arletty. Now, you never see Arletty in bed, and yet that's what she does for a living. You know, ever since she's been a teenager, she's been working the streets. One thing she's got is her beauty, i.e. her body. It's what she's selling. And from her, we then are swept into the crowd, and we meet Baptiste, the mime. We meet Lassinaire, who is at the beginning working as a scribe, writing letters for dull, ordinary, illiterate people, and he writes beautifully. He's the first one that attracts our lovely Garance, who's floating through life looking for something to interest her, because she has everything. She has beauty, she has youth. Well, once the lighting took over, she had youth. One of the things about the film that I think it's about smiles. Innocent smiles like Baptiste. His is an innocent child smile. Garance has this rather enigmatic smile. Lassinaire has a smile that's twisted, it's sardonic, it's waiting to do something. Frédéric, who we meet as an aspiring actor, his is a seductive smile. He's charm personified. The light in the film is very important. Right from the beginning, there seems to be a glow about it, a luminescence that I don't see in modern films. It's almost as if the moon is lighting it, even in the full sunlight. It's a silvery, soft light that infuses everything. And that's why the film is like a dream. And the dream, when it does slide into its nightmare form at the end, when Baptiste is losing Garance, is chilling because it's so beautiful. It's a movie that ends without resolutions. Characters haven't all had their final moment and walked away. We're left hanging. And what's interesting about the two halves of the film is they're very differently paced and structured. The first half is much busier, much livelier. The cutting, the way the camera is it's more active. The second half is incredibly static and slow, and everything takes its time. And it's a very classic and very, very confidently structured film. Watching it, I'm amazed at how much I've stolen from it. I think I have to admit to my guilt. I think of both Time Bandits with the theater and that, and I think of Baron Munchausen. When I started getting really interested in films was, as the new cinema was taking off, and we were suddenly being realistic. We were breaking away from the hidebound studio system. Now, for me, the studio system in America was very different than the studio system in Europe, because I knew what the studio system images looked like in America, and they were vapid. They were not poetic. There was no depth to them. They were just surface. When I see something like Children of Paradise, which was a studio-bound film, it's taken that what I felt was American banality and raised it to a level of fine art. I think there's an honesty in it, where I found so many American films were not honest. They were pretending to be a world that never existed. But Carne is taking the world that exists and transmuting it into a world that is just beyond our grasp. And it's better, and it's more interesting, and we can see more truth in that. I harken back to these films. Maybe it's because I'm just getting old. Maybe it's because these were the films of my youth, and now I'm clawing them back to try to hope the world can be like that again.
All right. So if you're not familiar with Terry Gilliam's work, you need to check out his film, Time Bandits. He's a filmmaker that Baron Munchausen, he's a filmmaker that tells such a visual story. It's magnetic. Your eyes can't look away. You're just like astonished. You look at every shot and you're immersed in it because he's telling the story, the narrative story, visually. Now, one of my favorite films, of course, my favorite film of all time is Stanley Kubrick's 2001: Space Odyssey. Another of my favorite films that really blew me away early on in my career was a film called Chinatown. And this is with Jack Nicholson. And the thing that blew me away about this film, very little dialogue throughout the film, very little. The film is told metaphorically and visually. And I love that fact. I remember, I think I saw it like on a Friday night or something. And I was just mesmerized by it. And I was like, this is why I want to be a filmmaker. And I'm going to show you the trailer. And you'll see that it's a bit slow, but every shot is well thought out. All right. Let's take a look at Chinatown.
Los Angeles, 1937. There are lots of guys like J.J. Gittes. They're easy to find, if you want to find them.
Mr. Gittes, have we ever met?
Well, no.
Never.
Never.
Since you agree with me that we've never met before,
Look at that
you
shot.
should also agree
Right
with
to
me
the
that
left.
I've never hired you to do anything, certainly not spy on my husband. I don't get tough with anyone, Mr. Gittes. My lawyer does.
I'm sorry, I have to just call that shot out so you can understand something there with what's being communicated. And I apologize, but I just love the visual representation here. Let me just go back and say, okay. The conflict between the two characters is symbolized by the divide in the door and how the shot is framed. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, sorry about that. Let me go back into the trailer. Okay.
You do your job. And sometimes you find the answers to questions that should never be asked. Or you find out what happens to people who ask them.
Hold it there, kitty cat. You're a very nosy fellow, kitty cat, huh? You know what happens to nosy fellows?
I dislike the word cheat.
Did you have affairs?
Mr. Gittes,
Did he know about it? Where were you when your husband died? You were seeing someone too. For very long?
I don't see anyone for very long, Mr. Gittes. It's difficult for me.
Mr. Gittes, you're dealing with a disturbed woman who's just lost her husband. I don't want to take an advantage of.
The truth. I said I want the truth.
Love that shot.
Go home, Jake. I'm doing you a favor. Come on, Jake.
Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown.
You get tough. You get tender. You get close to each other. Maybe you even get close to the truth. Jack Nicholson and Faye Dunaway in a Robert Evans production of a Roman Polanski film. Chinatown, 1937.
So a couple of shots I want to call out here that I thought were just beautiful. I love how they dolly in on Faye Dunaway at her introduction there. Beautiful, but that's not what I wanted to show. Keep going here. We covered this one there, right? Here's a shot right here. Backing up here. This is when Jack Nicholson is peeking in. As you can see, as he peeks in, the camera pans in, revealing more of what's going on here. And you have these two dividers. So you're seeing something you maybe not supposed to see, which is great. It's wonderful. And even here we have the gangster holding the knife in the foreground. He's a bit in the background. Perfect shot, perfect shot. You know, the movie's just peppered with this, and there's a whole symbology or analogy with water in the film. They use that. And I'm not going to give it away. You see the film, water plays a prominent character in the film itself. So it's beautiful. I highly recommend this film. I highly recommend this film. If you're really are interested in bringing greater depth to your storytelling. Now, as I said before, this is not meant for me to bash independent black filmmakers. I understand the strain that we can be under in terms of budgetary concerns and time, but far too many of our films just have that point and shoot mentality. That's a change. We have to look at things a little bit more creatively. And when you do, the audience is going to appreciate it, And you should learn how to tell a story visually, tell a story metaphorically. That's when you take your skill set to a higher level. And as a filmmaker, you're going to need to bridge these various different disciplines. You're going to need to work with your composer to tell the story musically. And you have to work with your actors to tell the story from their inflections and how they're positioned within the shots. This is all comes under your department, And if you have a passion and love for this, this doesn't seem like a daunting task. You're like, oh, wow, I've got to do all of that. No, because you're an artist. You're creating something. The word I use a lot when I talk about when I'm doing a film, and you'll see it in Terry Gilliam's films, is world building. I'm bringing you into a different world. And you're going to love what you see so much so that when the movie ends and you come out of it, you're going to want to go back. You're going to be like, another beautiful film I saw, a wonderful film, more modern film, is Blade Runner 2049. I love that film, but it was very slow, very slow. But after the film was over, I think it was like 2.5 hours or 3 hours, I wanted more. I wanted to go back in that Blade Runner future world because it was so rich with details, So I want you to think about that. Again, I'm not here to bash black filmmakers and say, you're all horrible. You're not. You're doing the best that you can do, but you're still a little lazy, all right? Get with it. In conclusion, there is a screenwriter who I think everyone should follow. His name is William Martell. I used to read all of his work. He publishes these little blue books. And what I love about what William Martell does is he takes the craft of screenwriting and he breaks everything down, from how to create character descriptions, how to create log lines, how to create a treatment, how to introduce your characters, how to create the conflict, how to create the mystery. And this is some of his blue books. This is the Secret of Log Lines and Treatments, Secret of Outline, Secret of Story, using Liar Liar as the example, Scene Secrets, Indie Killer B and Cable Films, Secrets of Descriptions. This is how you should approach it. This is how I approach it. You look at your film at whatever stage it's in, whether it's in the writing stage, but in this particular subject, we're dealing with the production. You're shooting, right? You're doing principal photography. Break everything down. Start breaking it down. I know you're a script. You will break the script down, but I mean, break everything down in terms of visually, in terms of the performances, and then focus on trying to hone each discipline, each craft, to where you're You're good at bringing performance out of an actor. You're good at telling the story visually. You're good at, world building. You bring people into your world, and they feel like they're in another time and space. Break all that down, focus on it, study it, and then put that in your film. Don't be satisfied with just traditional angles. Have a little bit of music on there, So that's it. The next thing I want to focus on is another thing that a lot of independent films really suffer from, and that is bad sound. Either no sound mix or, poor attempt at a sound mix. And it's unbelievable, Hollywood's looking for creative people, creative writers, creative filmmakers. And if you have honed your craft, you'll be more appealing to them. The studios are going to look for you, call out, and say, hey, there's a film, I forgot the name of it. It's with Kevin Bacon. And he tries to break into the Hollywood studio system, and he can't. He's a writer. So he's almost broke. He decides to pick up a 16mm camera and shoot a short film with some crazy angles. Somehow that film gets in the hands of some studio executives, and Kevin Bacon goes off with his girlfriend to a vacation. While he's on his vacation, that footage is shown to every studio in Hollywood, and the angles and the shots are broken down, and he becomes a Hollywood sensation that his agent is freaking out, going, hey, everybody's calling you. All the studios want to hire you. And you see these meetings where people are at lunch during their power lunch talking about his film and breaking down what he was trying to mean with the angles and the symbology behind it. And really, he didn't really place that much emphasis. He wanted to do something creative, but he wasn't that deep into it. And they're reading more into it, which just tells you how the audience appreciates this stuff. If you only give it to them, they're hungry for it, all right? So I've said enough. Anyway, if you get an opportunity, hit the like button, donate to the channel. This is Ron K. Armstrong, filmmaker extraordinaire. Until my next video or broadcast, keep making films.